But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk.
It's kind of weird because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank. And but with it being a exhibition, it makes sense.
Against a 200-pounder, I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab.
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when analyzing the upcoming showdown between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. According to Smith, Gervonta is one of the most explosive fighters of this generation, a natural-born knockout artist with elite instincts, razor-sharp timing, and fight-ending power in both hands. While Jake Paul's size and reach advantage can't be ignored, Stephen A. emphasized that raw athleticism means nothing when you're standing across from a world-class technician like Tank. He warned that despite Jake's physical edge, stepping into the ring with Gervonta could quickly turn into a brutal lesson in boxing reality.
Knockout on Ryan Garcia in April of 2023. Stephen A., is Tank Davis the most exciting fighter in boxing?
Yes, he is. He absolutely is. I love me some Terrence Crawford. He's spectacular, probably #1 pound for pound on the planet. I'm a Canelo Alvarez fan. Obviously, I'm a David Benavidez fan. But this brother, Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, the time has come for the world to recognize this is one of the top 5 fighters on the planet. He might be top 3.
Yeah.
You can make a legitimate argument for him being 3, 1, or whatever.
Smith described Gervonta as one of those rare natural fighters whose reflexes, precision, and punching instincts place him among the sport's elite. He admitted that Jake's size gives him a chance to land something big, but if Tank controls the distance and timing, the fight could become a one-sided masterclass. Over and over, Stephen A. has warned Jake that pride and overconfidence might be his downfall, because in boxing, size means nothing when you're trading punches with a refined knockout artist like Davis.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over.
Stephen A. has also acknowledged Jake Paul's growth, saying he's no longer just a YouTuber playing boxer. Jake's training with professional coaches, investing in full fight camps, and dedicating himself to the sport. But according to Smith, professionalism alone isn't enough. Now is the time for Jake to face real, active fighters who are his size, his age, and credible within boxing. Only by taking on those challenges, Smith says, can Jake prove whether he's ready to move beyond spectacle and earn genuine respect in the boxing world.
Paul is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better be a Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he's going to say, I don't need Canelo. Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about popularity, bro.
But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk. Well, if you're doing that, how you gonna turn around and knock Canelo Alvarez for doing the same? Especially working in a sport that you yourself, Jake Paul, has called corrupt and abusive towards fighters. Now, I understand you're upset, you're a little bit salty about Canelo using you to get a better deal from Riyadh or, or him turning down a fight with you. But what you're attempting to do and what you have done to some degree, Canelo Alvarez has done. He has fought Triple G. He has fought Mayweather. He has, even though Charlo's undersized, he was a champion. Terrence Crawford is a champion. By the way, he's not 140, he's not 135, he's 147. And then his last fight, I think, was at 154. And oh, by the way, he would move up a couple of weight classes. Now, I think Canelo needs to be fighting David Benavidez as well. But he did fight and knock out Kovalev at the light heavyweight spot. He did fight and lose to Bivol. He did fight Triple G not once, not twice, but 3 times. So when Canelo sits up there and says, I fight fighters, he ain't lying. His reputation does speak for itself. So I can't sit up there and flow with you, Jake Paul, on that one.
Smith didn't let Jake Paul off the hook, though, comparing his fight choices to Canelo Alvarez's recent moves. He argued that even Canelo, a certified legend, has taken bouts that seem more about money and hype than pure competition. And if that's true for Canelo, then Jake Paul certainly can't expect to dodge criticism. Smith challenged Jake directly, saying if he's truly serious about the sport, not the flash, not the paydays, not the spectacle, then he needs to fight opponents his own age, his own size, and with real credibility. According to Stephen A., that's the only way to prove legitimacy, build respect, and show growth beyond social media headlines.
Can't buy the hype at this particular moment in time. Now, I'll give Jake Paul credit for this. At least he's in the ring with a boxer. But 57 years old is 57 years old. And 57 years old and formally walking into a UFC fight as an audience member, as a patron with a cane, it's hard to me believe a year later that you're gonna be in any condition to really, really fight. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. And if you're Jake Paul, here's what I wanna say to you. It's Mike Tyson, that's fine. It's a money fight, I get you, and you wanna make money. But at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer / fighter, you're gonna have to fight somebody closer to your age, who is a contender at the very least in the sport and who lives with it every single day. Could you please get in the ring with somebody? Pretty please, with sugar on top. I'm interested. But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk. Well, if you're doing that, how you gonna turn around and knock Canelo Alvarez for doing the same? Especially working in a sport that you yourself, Jake Paul, has called corrupt and abusive towards fighters. Now I understand you're upset, you're a little bit salty about Canelo using you to get a better deal from Riyadh or, or him turning down a fight with you, but what you're attempting to do and what you have done to some degree, Canelo Alvarez has done. He has fought Triple G, he has fought Mayweather. He has, even though Charlo's undersized, he was a champion. Terrence Crawford is a champion. By the way, he's not 140, he's not 135, he's 147. And then his last fight, I think, was at 154. And oh, by the way, he would move up a couple of weight classes. Now, I think Canelo needs to be fighting David Benavidez as well. But he did fight and knock out Kovalev at the light heavyweight spot. He did fight and lose to Bivol. He did fight Triple G not once, not twice, but 3 times. So when Canelo sits up there and says, I fight fighters, he ain't lying. His reputation does speak for itself. So I can't sit up there and flow with you, Jake Paul, on that one.
Jake Paul fired back, reminding everyone that he's still new to the sport. I was on Disney when these guys were already winning UFC belts. Jake said, highlighting that his critics have been fighting their entire lives while he's only recently stepped into the ring. He admits he's not at the top yet, but insists he's learning fast, evolving with every fight, and ready to prove himself not with talk, but with results inside the ropes.
You are beating up on dudes who don't box. They're not boxers.
I was on Disney Channel while these guys were winning UFC championships.
Okay.
I was playing with Mickey Mouse while these guys were throwing arm bars and winning UFC championships. Everyone's, analyzing my career, critiquing it, paying attention to it from day one, but you can't tell me who was Mike Tyson's first fight. You can't tell me who Muhammad Ali, who was his fourth fight. No one knows, but everyone's seen all of my fights. I tried to fight Tommy Fury. Yeah, I tried to fight Tommy Fury, and he backed out due to a rib injury. Undefeated, young prospect. He comes from the Fury family. His brother's the heavyweight champion of the world. I tried to fight him, and he got scared.
Despite his criticism, Stephen A. has given Jake Paul credit where it's due, especially for how he's shaking up the boxing business. Smith respects that Jake is showing fighters they don't have to depend completely on promoters to build their brand. He pointed out how traditional promoters have often controlled matchmaking, delayed careers, and dictated who gets the big fights. Jake Paul, in contrast, has cut through those old systems, bringing attention, money, and new energy into the sport. And for Stephen A. Smith, that impact, love it or hate it, counts for a lot.
I've always been a fan of Jake because I think that what Jake tries to do for the sport of boxing, I think people don't realize the importance of him being able to promote for himself and not being reliant on the promoters who I believe has held the sport hostage. The only critique I've ever given Jake, I just want Jake to fight boxers. Like Nate Diaz, we know his reputation. We know the man can fight. We know in the octagon he could be something special. But we know you breathe on him, he starts bleeding.
It's a fair critique. And you know what? He should fight boxers, but then again, should he? Because I'll tell you why. If you're a human who can rake in $6 to $10 million fighting people that you know you're going to beat, and you want to build a resume and a record that's impressive with a good highlight reel, you got to be strategic about this shit. Jake's 25, 26. He's got so much time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I get where you coming from. All I'm saying is, we don't know your skill set because you haven't been in there with anybody really, really skilled.
One of boxing's sharpest minds, Terrence Bud Crawford, has weighed in on the matchup, calling it a dangerous imbalance. He believes Jake Paul's physical size could overshadow technique if he manages to land just one clean shot. Crawford put it bluntly, if Paul lands early, that single punch might decide the entire night. Yet he also added an important caveat. Because of the obvious weight difference, this fight might feel less like a pure contest and more like an exhibition, a showcase of personality and power rather than a true test of skill.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over.
Teddy Atlas, one of boxing's most respected analysts, has taken a balanced view of Jake Paul's rise. Atlas openly acknowledges that regardless of how critics feel, Jake deserves real credit for building his path in boxing. In Atlas's words, fights like these don't just fall into your lap, they're earned through persistence, investment, and risk. He explained that Paul has done what few thought possible for a YouTuber turned boxer, carving out his own lane in a sport built on credibility and legacy. Teddy also admitted Jake has improved technically, putting in years of serious work with professional trainers, sparring real fighters, and learning to manage himself inside the ring. While many purists mock him, Atlas insists that the hate often ignores the dedication and progress Paul has shown. Proof that, whether you like him or not, Jake has earned his spot under the lights.
That I gave too much credit to Paul. Why? He's done a hell of a job to put himself in this position. He sold himself, he sold his dream, he took his dream, he took his idea, and he put it out there, and he made it happen. Give him credit for that. And he made it happen. And he took risk along the way. Yeah, he picked his spots. He's in the driver's seat. He gets to pick his spots. He's the one bringing the money. He's the one promoting. Yeah, he's the name. He made himself that, coming from where he came from, with all his followers and the whole thing, and just the uniqueness of what he was doing. But he has learned along the way. He's not a top guy yet. No, I don't know that he ever will be. He didn't have that amateur background and the things that you usually need to be a top guy. But he has improved. He has he is a work in progress. He is a guy that you got to give him credit that he's respected the sport. He went out there, he's worked hard at it, and he's gotten himself into this position. Having said all of that, this might be a step too far. Now, when I say it, I'm also, I try to be responsible. I've been in this game 50 years, so I know where not to step, where you could twist an ankle, or worse, you could break a leg or fall down.
Several boxing analysts believe this fight could become one of the biggest global events in recent memory. Not just in boxing, but in all of sports entertainment. Their reasoning is simple. Jake Paul isn't just a boxer. He's a brand, an entertainer, and a social media powerhouse. His audience stretches far beyond the traditional boxing crowd, bringing millions of casual viewers into the fold. With that kind of reach, experts predict this event could dominate headlines, break pay-per-view records, and redefine how boxing interacts with the modern global audience. In essence, this fight isn't just about two fighters. It's about the evolution of the sport itself.
The boxing than Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, Canelo's not a bigger global star than Jake Paul because Jake Paul is an entertainer outside the sport of boxing. That's why. So now you have people telling you that Jake Paul and Tank Davis is a circus fight. Okay? It's a commercial circus fight on top of that. Jake Paul fights at cruiserweight and heavyweight. 200 plus pound, 200 minimum. Okay, his last fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., former world champion, the son of a legend, he weighed in at 199 pounds. He fought Iron Mike Tyson at 224 pounds. Okay? Tank Davis fights at 135 pounds. You have the storyline of David and Goliath that's going to push the entertainment part, okay? That's going to get people to draw interest in the fight. Why? Because you have the whole David and Goliath situation going on. So again, that attracts people. Okay? So it's a sideshow. But even the sideshow, yes, it's going to be on Netflix. Yes, it's going to be a big event on Netflix. But guess what? They are fighting at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia.
However, not everyone sees it as progress. Critics from Boxing Scene and other major outlets have slammed the bout, calling it a spectacle dressed up as sport, driven by money, not merit. They argue that the match represents the commercialization of boxing at its worst, where tradition and integrity are traded for social media clicks and streaming dollars. Much of the criticism has been directed at Gervonta Davis himself, who chose this fight over a contractual rematch with Lamont Roach Jr. Roach, still bitter over their controversial draw, called Davis's decision disrespectful, noting that Tank ignored the rematch clause they agreed on. Reports suggest Davis will make around $100 million for the Jake Paul exhibition, a figure that dwarfs what he would have earned facing Roach again. For many purists, that payday highlights the widening gap between boxing as a sport and boxing as business.
Gervonta doesn't want this fight.
We want that rematch next. It's definitely the one I want next.
It's the fight I want next, but it's not the fight that's going to be next. Tank said they ain't going to give it to you. PBC had a contract for Tank Roach. Tank didn't sign it. Roach knew all along fight ain't going to happen. He was only contractually obligated to have the rematch if Roach win. Roach won that fight. Robbed him of the knockdown. It's a draw. Now they're not contractually obligated. So why didn't Tank sign the contract?
Gervonta Davis, and you're being offered 20, 30, 40 million, whatever the number is, and you're getting 7 or 8 to fight Lamont Roach.
Do you remember once upon a time, Gervonta Tank Davis had a contract on the table for like 200 million, 300 million, something crazy like that? 6-fight deal, what happened to it? The PBC split with Showtime, now with Amazon. Gervonta doesn't want to fight James. What else is he going to do? Let me tell you the biggest issue. He had nowhere to go.
Where's the...
Veteran boxing analysts Gary Logan and David Adeli also echoed that sentiment, pointing out how fame and financial gain often outweigh legacy and competition in the modern era. Instead of chasing a legitimate rematch with Roach, Davis pursued a blockbuster payday. They concluded that while Tank's move makes perfect business sense, it reflects a broader truth. That boxing today is increasingly driven by spectacles, social relevance, and money rather than pure competition and pride.
We got Tank getting in the ring with Jake Paul pretty soon. What do you think that, like, what is it?
You know why, it's people, a lot of people mad, a lot of people upset, real hardcore boxing fans. But you know what about boxing? I like when it's all said and done and when you guys go off, they go into the next man. So if y'all can make a big payday, go get that payday. The sport of boxing don't love you. That's the problem with this sport. It's like what Jake Paul did, man, it's crazy, but people getting paid off of it.
Yeah.
So if he can call any one of y'all out and y'all can get that payday, I say go get it, baby.
So now the question turns to you. Will Jake Paul's size and star power give him a real chance to shock the world? Or will Gervonta Tank Davis's elite skill, precision, and knockout power prove too much to handle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's see where the fans stand on this one.